All right. All right. How we sounding? How we doing? We doing pretty good? Am I being heard? Let's see. Let's see if this plays. All right. All right. How we sounding? Oh, it sounds fine to me. Let's go ahead and post this link. Get some viewers in here. We're ready to rock and roll. Sounds like they'll start in like 5 minutes or so. Oh, I gotta put this on Discord as well. All right. Okay, hope you all are doing well. Welcome to rounds 3 and 4 of Scott versus TANISH. So I try to make the intro. I realize I need to get the board set up. Also, yeah, I know y'all can see what I'm doing, so, you know, but it's whatever. It's not exactly private. I need to get this on my iPad. Okay. Actually, well, not really an actually. I'm just thinking out loud. I'll be right back. Okay. Looks like we have a few viewers already. I hope you are having a good day. A good Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday, thank God. And whether you are watching this live, which odds are is very unlikely, or you're watching the recording, welcome to rounds 3 and 4 of Scott versus TANISH. Scott versus TANISH is a friendly, well, I say friendly, just in kind of the, you know, professional sense. Who knows if this is actually a friendly match, but it's a friendly match, US chess rated match between TANISH C-Lam, who's about 1819, Scott Cooper 1551. So, the current match score is 2-zip TANISH. So, if Scott wants to win or tie the match, which I don't know if they do tiebreakers, we've never really had to deal with it much in these matches. I think normally if it's a tie, it's just accepted as a tie. But if Scott wants to not lose the match, he has to 2-0 today against a player, 350 points higher rate than him. So that's going to be tough. And if he wants to gain rating, he could probably, you know, scalp like a half, maybe even a full point. I'm not exactly sure. Just like that, moves are coming. Jeremiah, yeah, shout out. Finally catching a Daniel stream, for sure. I mean, I stream so sporadically, it's kind of hard to, but glad that you could make it. Welcome. And just like that, we have some moves on the board. So, C4, and let's first designate the colors. So, TANISH, C-Lam is white. Scott Cooper is black. Okay, I'm getting some lore about this match already, which is pretty interesting from this game. The ratings are on the graphic, so I figure you can probably see them. Tanish opening with C4. That's unusual. Tanish is kind of a religious E4 player. So it's a little bit surprising. It's like Bobby Fischer in Game 6, I believe. Was it Game 6? Yeah, Game 6 of the World Championship match, where he had played pawn to e4 as his bread and butter, but he plays c4. So I'm falling behind. Let's get to this. c4, c5, knight c3, not e6, e5 on the board. LS Chess, how is it going? And also, sorry, if there are these, like, random dings, that's, like, probably Jason texting me. Jason's the host of this match, so, you know, it very likely means you're getting good intel, so, just don't complain. E5, G3, so this is all pretty normal. Bishop G2, Knight C6. Actually, well, I say it's normal. I actually don't know if this is that normal, but I'm going to get these moves on the board first. And then I'll kind of give some commentary. E3, D6, Knight G to E2. Okay, so initial thoughts, reverse Maroczy bind, I guess. Tanish used the English to beat me. Oh, beat, but in quotations. Oh, I see. Yeah, I didn't know how frequently he played stuff other than E4, but I say beat because it was a dead draw and I brain slipped. Yeah, I remember that. I think we remember that fateful brain slip happens for sure. Scott plays Bishop E7. Yeah, my first thought is that it's kind of questionable for black. I'm not exactly sure because I feel like normally these Maroczy binds, you want to play kind of this d-pawn push at some point. The problem is with the English, you're putting so much resources into d5 that d5 is probably not going to happen. I'm not going to say never say never, but I think white is going to get their pawn break with d4 very easily. I think it's just a matter of timing. Does he just want to play it immediately? Does he maybe want to play like b3, bishop b2 first, and then d4? You know, there are some like possibilities there, but I'm not sure what black's game plan is. I think what I sort of, you know, can kind of take away is I think it's about pawn breaks. Scott's openings are exotic. Facts. There's not really a great pawn break for Scott. You know, maybe like f5, f4 is the only one I can maybe think about. But that's even a long shot. Like, there's no d5. I would say, like, b5's not really realistic anytime soon. I guess you can entertain rook b1, a6, b5, but even then, Tanish can play a4 whenever he wants. Maybe a4, like, weakens the b4 square, but even then, like, I don't know, the knight hangs. It just seems like you're putting a lot of resources into that. So, you know, whereas Tanish, I think, has a clear plan. Just go d4. Okay, Scott plays bishop f5. So, looks all right. A little bit committal. Like, I'm not exactly sure that the bishop necessarily belongs on f5. It's okay, though. I mean, computer's not going to complain because it's going to be, like, you know, black's solid. Well, he's solid enough, you know. I think white clearly won the opening, but black's not straight up losing. It's just that you never know if, like, bishop e6 and eventual d5 will work out. I guess I just said that d5's never happening. I guess there are possibilities where it could. Like, if you put the bishop on e6, I'm thinking about bishop e6, b3, and it's d5 work. It's a move. Computer doesn't like it. Probably because of, like, takes. Not takes, actually. What's the problem with d5? I wonder if it's just like d4 or something. You just get enough counterplay. Maybe there's a move here I'm missing. Pretty obvious. I am not exactly sure. But this seems very pleasant for white. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Oh, it is because of d4. But also the eval update. d4 or f4. But yeah, I agree. I don't know if you were talking about the variation or the game position, but I would agree that this position looks very pleasant for white. So I think just like that, within like 5 minutes of the game, Tanish already won the opening. Tanish is replicating the setup that 1800 me used to spam, if you remember that, Daniel. Yeah, I certainly do remember that. I mean, you know, I wouldn't have like remembered if you just like, without, you know, context, but yeah. Now a3, and the engine is quivering because, I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe he was just supposed to play d4 earlier. So I'm trying to see. So I guess he was trying to prevent knight b4 from happening, which I guess is fair game, but like I'm not even sure you have to be that worried about it. Like if they just go like knight b4, knight c2. Moves are wait, wait, what? Okay. So a3. Scott plays bishop d3. Okay. Interesting. So that seems to be the reason. And let me just check the line, see if that was the best move. Yeah, bishop d3. Kudos to Scott. Scott finds the best move. Physically preventing the pawn break that would make Tanish's position good, opening up the position, putting his pieces to life. Bishop d3 physically prevents the pawn from being able to move. And not only that, it's quite difficult to come up with a way to just kick this bishop. For one, the knight's pinned, so you'd have to, move your rook. And, can I construct something like b3, bishop b2, and knight c1? I guess. That's a ton of resources, though, to sort of, devote to just nudging that bishop, right? Tanish pretty quickly plays b3. I would imagine that Tanish is probably pretty frustrated now. Maybe he's trying to go bishop b2. I mean, he should play rook e1 at some point, unless he's interested in sacking the exchange. I'm not exactly sure. So I think what Scott needs to do is just kind of chill. I did briefly look at the engine line before I turned it off, but queen d7 seems like a fine move. Well, it's the top engine move, but it makes sense. You kind of keep your cards open as far as do I want to castle queenside or kingside? Seems like a good practical move. Maybe also the idea is to go queen f5, and then you have this attack, potentially. But Scott, he's going to go rogue. He's going to go h5. h5 is on the board. It's one of the better moves, as we can see with the eval not changing. And he's going to decide, none of this, castling kingside nonsense. I'm not even necessarily going to castle queenside. I'm going to leave my rook on the h-file and go all out. I stopped you from playing your pawn break, d4. I kind of put you in a bind. I potentially frustrated you. And now we are going to go bang. We're going to go h5, h4. We'll see if he wants to take or just go h3. And this could be a game. I think this will be a game. I guess it'll be the first game where Scott potentially has an advantage out of the opening, which is kind of funny because I'd say in the opening, Tanish had the advantage because, this questionable, but the thing is he didn't play d4 soon enough. And as soon as, he was given the opportunity, I think with bishop f5, maybe that was his other idea, was to go bishop d3. So I think you have to play d4 here, right? Yeah, you just have to go d4. And if takes, you get something like this. Knight takes, your queen gets super active, they'd have a weak pawn. Obviously, he doesn't have to trade all the way, but just kind of demonstrates if he leaves it there, maybe. There are options of taking, or you could just push or even leave it there. That's also fine. Even maybe f4, just kind of chipping away even further, but that's a strong possibility. But yeah, just one slip up. And now Scott's back in the game with bishop d3, h5. And Tanish was on a think, but he's played rook to e1, which is understandable. I mean, it's kind of the calm sort of approach. You're not necessarily reacting to it you have to stop it. Scott plays h4, and that's awesome. That is often the way that you sort of counter this h5, h4 sort of nonsense. I'm not saying nonsense that's bad. I'm just saying that dealing with it, which is that you just don't do anything. Tanish is not going to take because it would just open the h file for his opponent, damage the pawn structure. Taking would be sort of you're trying to lose the game. So really just leaving it there is probably the best strategy. I feel like Tanish's mindset is probably just to go bishop b2, then knight c1. So he's going to prioritize kicking the bishop. And I think what Scott should do, well, we'll see what Tanish does. I assume bishop b2 if I had to guess. But I think what Scott should do, if he's smart, is go queen d7. Then after knight c1, go bishop f5. You preserve the bishop, and you're threatening. Well, I say threatening, and it's not like bishop e2 is on the board. So yeah, the idea would be that you anticipate that knight c1's coming. Your bishop will have to move anyway. So you go queen d7, and then when knight c1 comes, you then go bishop f5, and your idea is to go bishop h3 and try to trade off the bishops. Obviously, if takes, there'd be queen takes, and the h-file would open. That would just not be a good situation. And then if, knight c1, bishop f4, queen's on d7, bishop h3, I'm just making moves. The other idea to sort of, keep the bishops would be bishop h1, but, there are ideas like queen g4, well, I guess not queen g4, because the queen would take, knight g4. Jeremiah, no, that's a really good question. Yeah, at 5 minutes, and the position does look like this. So let's recap what happened, if I get a chance. I tried telling Scott on Facebook, don't, move slower. The commentator has to sort of keep up. So he took, after this recapture, yeah, we'll see if he thinks. But we'll kind of recap what's going on in this game. So, Scott went for this sort of, exotic setup against the English, playing c5, e5, then d6. The problem is TANISH had an opportunity to play d4 and just blow up in the position, and that would seriously favor him, especially if Scott sort of complied. But TANISH took one move to just play a3, preventing sort of knight b4, which is understandable, but Scott finds the move bishop d3. I'm going to give that an exclam. Maybe not double exclam worthy, but it's a really good instructive move, physically preventing d4, and it's very hard to just kick this bishop. And in the meantime, Scott decides, well, I've settled my bishop to d3, now on to the next opportunity with h5, h4. And he's just going to sort of open the h-file, and there we go. Scott finds our move. He finds queen to d7. Queen to d7 with the idea to go boom, then boom. And maybe arguably, this version is more effective because he made the trade first. I guess he could still go bishop h1, but I figure there's got to be a knockout blow. Yeah, I don't know if you just got here, Jeremiah, and I don't know what your rating level is, so if you're 2,000 and I'm teaching you these concepts, don't be offended, but because I know Logan's here, for instance, and I'm not teaching him anything, but this is for kind of the audience and also just people maybe watching after. I know Scott watched it after. Maybe TANISH would just for the entertainment, but TANISH is way better than I am, so not like you'd learn anything. But the idea with queen d7 is that TANISH is going to go knight c1 without a doubt, or he should. And then Scott is sort of setting it up to go bishop f5, and then bishop. My arrows are off today. Bishop f5, then bishop h3. So you put the queen on d7 to sort of reinforce that. So that's sort of what's going on. All right, some time to breathe. Welcome to Scott versus TANISH. Over the board, chess club match. If you enjoy the commentary, that I didn't mean to. I was about to say, if you enjoy the commentary, please enjoy the commentary, or something like that. Something stupid like that. But I hope you enjoy the commentary. And if you do, feel free to subscribe, I guess. That would be pretty good. But, yeah, we'll see what happens. TANISH is understandably taking a little bit of a think. So, maybe let's think from... Okay, well, wow, okay. Wait. I wonder... I see the move. I'm not putting it on the board yet because I want to see if there's a clear win for black. TANISH just plays e4. Okay, e4 might actually be the best move. I was about to think about possibilities for TANISH. Yeah, e4 is the best move. So, okay, shout out to TANISH. See the idea that he's trying to put the bishop on f5 and sort of invade and just kind of trapping this bishop. Now, technically, the bishop's not trapped because you can always take the knight. But I think there's still kind of a problem for white, which is that now the d4 square is extremely weak. So you can go knight d4, maybe you can trade and then go knight d4. There are sort of possibilities there. Scott still could have aspirations to go It's like a scheme, for instance, might be like queen g4, queen h5, and then you just go in with your queen or something like that. I understand if I got these moves and I play king f1, there's not necessarily an immediate win, but that could be like a possibility. Knight g4 or something like that. Who's going to win, Daniel? That's a good question. So TANISH is up 2-zip in the match. This is a 4-game match, which actually I should probably update. That's probably a good idea. So TANISH in the match is up 2-0. So I assume TANISH will win the match, but Scott seems to have the upper hand in this particular game. Scott plays knight d4. One of the thematic ideas that we noticed when TANISH played e4, which is that now the d4 square completely belongs to him. So, I would say, and wait. So I'm kind of looking at this on my own. Does TANISH just... I guess knight c1, there's, bishop c2. Okay, this is interesting. You actually have to do something about bishop c2. Let me think. What can be done? I guess knight takes d4 is a possibility. But yeah, to answer your question, okay, knight takes d4 is on the board. Now it's kind of starting to look like, maybe, and I know the eval kind of says it, but maybe the tide is shifting towards, TANISH. And TANISH could win this game. You never know. I would still say definitely it's pretty scary looking, just given the open H file and all that stuff, but I think TANISH did a really good job of just kind of trapping this bishop. So now the bishop can't really participate in the attack. So if TANISH can just maybe, he plays a move after, well, I guess he can't do that. I was going to say rook e3, but, he has to recapture, which would cover the e3 score. Maybe queen f3 or something. So takes queen f3. There could be bishop c2, though. I'm actually trying to think about this. Oh, actually, I'm dumb. Knight is attacked, so you have to move the knight. Okay, so I was wondering, e takes, say. I actually don't know which captures bet. Maybe actually c takes to kind of keep the center closed. Knight d5 or something like that. How does this bishop just not get straight up trapped? Okay, e takes is on the board. I don't know. I like this for TANISH, because now, this and this could potentially be opened up. Whereas I thought maybe c takes would be better to just kind of keep the position closed. And, so I'm not exactly sure. E takes looks a little bit like you're allowing counterplay. I think you're allowing TANISH just enough counterplay to definitely just let him back in the game. In fact, at this point, you have to calculate, does e5 immediately just work? Which he doesn't play, but it's interesting. I probably wouldn't mess with it. My knight's attacked. I'm just going to move it. That's very understandable. I know computer doesn't like it, but I like it practically, unless there's a concrete sort of follow-up. So, wait, is e5 the move? Maybe it is. No, I assume it's something just takes. Takes? Okay. But yeah. Dumb variations. Dumb variations with Daniel. Knight d5. Wait, no, wait. Sorry. Knight takes, e takes, knight d5 is on the board. Okay, great. Let me... I have to text our host. Okay, knight takes e4 is on the board. Wow. Wow, he finds it. It's not a good move. Okay, so I said he found it because I see his idea. I see bishop takes, rook takes, queen h3. The problem is, I believe you can take the bishop with check. But there's also even queen f3. So I'd say taking the bishop first and then queen f3. Jason says, boy, what's this crap? But Yeah, that's sort of... So knight takes e4, because the thing is, this pawn is protected twice, only attacked once. So it's clearly a sacrifice. Sorry, no. It's attacked twice because of this bishop. I forgot about it. But still, 2-on-2 is, it favors the defender. So either he just completely missed something, or he did intentionally sack the pawn. Sorry, sack the knight. But this is going to be totally fine for TANISH, because after takes... Oh, wait. It's not takes. Oh, wow. Takes usually goes queen h3 immediately. Ah, that's clever. Queen h3, and you just can't stop mate. I mean, you can, I guess, in theory. There's apparently, like, a move. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I'm not necessarily that interested, unless it happens in the game, but, So is it rook takes? I guess maybe rook takes is the idea. Okay, it's an idea, but not the best move. Do you take an a7 first? So many freaking possibilities. Okay, so the top move... The good news for TANISH is that there are multiple moves which are winning. The top engine move is to ignore the sacrifice. Well, I say ignore, but play queen f3. So queen f3 would attack pretty much bottle up the bishop, and then, like, you also have an attack here. I imagine also if, like, the bishop moves, maybe there's d3. You kind of force the knight to move, and then there's this. The second move is knight takes e7. So you kind of in between this capture first. And if queen takes, you just your queen's now out of line, and, like, nothing really works. Although I guess you still can't take... Oh, well, yeah, you can't. Well, the queen protects the knight, so that makes more sense. But you could play, like, queen f3, and then once again, the house is kind of falling apart, right? Other moves are winning, like knight f4 is randomly a winning move. Rook takes e4 is fine. So TANISH, understandably, is taking his time. He has not yet played bishop takes e4. Hopefully he doesn't. I imagine that he at first saw, like, bishop e4 and thought he was fine, but missed that instead of capturing first, he just goes queen h3 immediately. And normally in these variations with bishop e4, queen h3, you'd have, like, bishop g2 just holding everything together, because if check, there's an escape. The problem is after check, there's no escape. It would just be mate. So that clearly is not going to happen. I don't think TANISH is going to blunder mate in 2. So, I don't know. If I had to guess, I think... probably rook takes e4 will happen. Maybe knight takes e7. I'd be a little surprised if queen f3 is played, if TANISH just plays it. But TANISH is TANISH. He's a really good player. We'll see. And we'll see what happens. This is the live position. Wow, TANISH found the best move. He found queen to f3. Queen to f3 with the exclam. So, I think we did recap this already, but the idea behind queen f3 is that you're attacking the bishop. Black has no time to just go like queen h3 or anything. Obviously, your bishop's staying there. You're attacking the bishop. You're threatening to just take it. And the bishop doesn't really have anywhere else to go. And I think if bishop c2, there was d3 for 1, but I think there's even another move that was winning. But yeah, the bishop's just trapped, which is funny because beforehand the bishop was the hero preventing d4, but now the bishop is kind of the sacrificial lamb. So yep. Bishop c2 on the board. Yeah, bishop c2. Yeah, the move I would probably play is d3. I think it's pretty simple. Also, I need to get rid of this, this black one nonsense. I think it's because I played a checkmate variation that just says that black won. So, let's see. Yeah, bishop c2. Yep. Jason says that Scott's screwed. Yep, that's true. All right. Yeah, I'm curious what the top move is. Oh, top move is d3. d3 or knight takes e7. Knight takes e7 makes a lot of sense, just kind of throwing it in. But I think at some point d3 will be played, either immediately or after knight takes. But yeah, black is just in a world of hurt here. So let's take a moment, if we can, which we may not be able to if they move fast. Just kind of see what went wrong for Scott. I think for sure, well, he was a little bit... I think maybe e4 caught him off guard. There wasn't really much you could do about it, but the problem is his bishop got trapped. And I think it took him a second to sort of realize. But then, knight takes e4 was overly ambitious. Played it too quickly, in my opinion, and I know that's been a common criticism of Scott throughout the match. I'm trying to see how quickly he played it. Yeah, he spent less than a minute on knight takes e4. Something committal like that, you just have to take your time. Yeah, I'm texting Jason. I mean, chat's pretty dead, so, if someone's texting me about the game, I'll reply to them, but, I mean, yeah, so white's completely winning. The problem is not only you're down a piece, but also the king's in the middle, which is not ideal, so, well, I say you're down a piece, you will be down a piece when d3 happens. I guess black can try to get some, oh wow, TANISH plays rook takes e4. It's good. It's good. Not the best way to convert, but it's totally fine. You get the 2 minor pieces for the rook, but plus this bishop is just paralyzed. He's going to rook e8, sorry, rook e1, and it's just it's just bang, bang, boom. Just like that. Yeah, I actually like the practicality of TANISH's choice. I'm sure he calculated it that, at the end of the line, the bishop would just be paralyzed. Scott castles queenside, which is, which, just makes everything worse. Knight or queen takes e7 is fine. Maybe practically I like knight takes because you keep the queens on the board and you can still try to attack. But also queen takes kind of trades the queens and you're going to be up material. So just probably a matter of personal preference. And maybe if you want 0 risk, you just play queen takes. But we'll see what happens. Okay, Tanish goes queen takes. That does seem like a Tanish type of decision, just choosing to trade queens, of course, if Scott obliges, which I think he kind of has to. I mean, queen c6 is the only non-queen trade move, but it's gotta be bad. I think it's just bad because it's just like queen f7 or something. There's knight e7. I mean, you're just asking to lose at this point. You're just like, it's basically a resignation, in my opinion. He trades, knight takes, will be on the board. Probably, I mean, I don't know. He might go king d7, attack the knight. But yeah, Tanish is just up a clean piece. Maybe the only slight difficulty is like activating this bishop, but you can easily go d3, bishop c1, get the bishop out this way, and you know the effect of being up a piece will be shown. So the knight should move, probably knight d5 or knight f5, knight d5 on the board. I mean, if Scott doesn't resign, this will actually be a good potential masterclass as to how to convert these positions, because, you know, lower A players never fail to amaze me in how poor they are in sort of the, in sort of the conversion. It's like, yes, you get the job done eventually, but did you really need to take like 30 moves to convert the queen up endgame when you could have done it in like 10? Just like, I don't know, make a box, cut the king off, and get checkmate. Instead of like, oh, I'm going to take every last pawn, I'm going to savor the position, just like, just get the job done. So if I'm Tanish, although I guess what I realize now is that, yeah, I'm such a bad commentator because I don't realize this. So it is completely winning, Eval Bar says so. Tanish does not have an extra rook. It's winning for Tanish because he has an extra minor piece. So actually the conversion could be a little bit trickier than one would think. Like, I don't think he will have problems with it. Because I was going to say, like, just put a rook on the e file, but then I forgot. I was like, wait, there isn't another rook. There's only one rook. I'd still probably go, like, king f1, and then go rook e1, and just trade the pieces, and eventually the three minors are just going to overpower the rook. This might actually be a really good masterclass. 3 minors versus a rook, you rarely see that. Tanish goes bishop f3. Okay. So yeah, bishop f3. I'm not exactly sure what the idea. I guess you're preventing rook e2 by putting the bishop there. I think maybe king f1 would have been more accurate, but bishop f3 is fine. We'll let Tanish show us how to win 3 minors versus a rook. I think Tanish also has... He actually has one less pawn, but it seems... It looks more equal because these pawns are doubled. f5... f5 on the board, so I guess we'll see maybe king g2 or king f1. Maybe like knight f4, just to like kind of have an outpost. All right. Welcome, everyone. If any of you just joined, this is a friendly match. US Chess Rated, Scott Cooper versus Tanish Sealam. Scott was doing fine until he blundered. b5, b3. Sorry, b4, b6 is on the board. So Tanish is trying to open things up. So if Scott takes, he can take with the A pawn and open the A file. If Scott plays like a6, there's maybe b5. Just continuing to like try to activate one of his pieces. Whereas Scott plays b6, which just sort of prevents the position from being opened up. So if takes, there's like d takes. And he's doing fine. By the way, time check, we haven't really had to do this. Tanish has 24 minutes left. Scott has 31. The game kind of progressed pretty quickly, so this doesn't exactly surprise me. But, yeah, that's just sort of what's going on. But yeah, I hope everyone who's watching is having a blessed day and a blessed life. Um, you just never know. We're never guaranteed to be on this world as soon as the sun sets or the sun rises. So, you know, it's great that you all are here and thriving. So, yeah. D3's on the board. Makes sense. I mean, maybe you just want to like freeze these pawns. I think he's gonna just go like bishop c1, bishop f4, or g5. Just activate that bishop and get his minor pieces going. Scott plays rook h6. I mean, a little odd. If he knows that bishop c1's coming, he kind of lets him get it with tempo. If I'm Tanish, I just... Actually, well, maybe he's going to think a little, because he might want to go here. And sort of double on the e-file. So maybe if I have that knowledge, I consider knight f4. But then there's g5. Aren't rooks better than bishops and knights? Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. So the thing is, they're better than the bishop and the knight individually. Like, a rook versus a bishop is generally better. A rook versus a knight is generally better. But we start getting to, like, multiple minor pieces. It's normally the minor pieces, if they're, like, working together, who are better. Because they can sort of do more. So they can do more, like, sort of together. And then, you know, in this instance, when we have, like, 3 minor pieces versus a rook, so you sort of see the imbalance. Like, we'll say that the pawns are equal. Like, I know, like, Scott, I think, technically has, like, one more pawn, but it's not like one, you know, pawn's gonna make the whole difference, right? So the imbalance you have is 3 minor pieces versus 3 minor pieces and a rook versus 2 rooks, which is actually pretty unique. You never really see that much. So if you say a pair of rooks gets traded off, it's essentially 3 minor pieces versus a rook. So it's just that once the bishops get coordinated, you just have like a lot of like leeway to sort of like just do stuff. Like you can put this bishop here. If something opens up on this side of the board, you could put like a bishop here attacking the pawn, and when the pawn moves to a light square, use the other bishop to attack it. So you know, to answer your question, Jeremiah, rook f1's on the board, by the way. To answer your question, Jeremiah, you know, yes, the rook is better than individually the bishop or knight, but against both of them, or, you know, heaven forbid, like 3 of them, you know, they're going to overpower a single rook, if that makes sense. And it does take, like, technique and experience to actually sort of convert on that. I was saying, kind of acting like earlier how I was completely winning because of the eval bar. I didn't fully realize what the imbalance was. I think I assumed that Tanish was up a piece. So that might be a little bit more difficult to convert than it seems like it. Like, if this were like a Super GM commentary or something, they'd be like, oh yeah, well, White's winning. We'll move on to the next game. We'll switch over to, like, whatever, Nakamura versus Hansen or whatever. But I think this will be instructive, because you're sort of going to see how these pieces sort of, like, come to life. Well, hopefully they come to life. I'm waiting on Bishop C1. Been waiting for a solid minute. Bishop C1 now pins the pawn. So, you know, I guess Bishop C1, you could play like Rook G6. I don't know. Maybe the bishop's not that great on C1. We'll see. Alright. I do need to blow my nose. So I'll be right back. All right, welcome back. A couple moves happened since I last sort of saw. So G5 was on the board. Bishop C1 did he get played? Black played Rook G8. So yeah, again, sort of the struggle is just like, just trying to like improve the position as either side. I imagine that, can't TANISH just play Rook E1 here, is what I'm thinking, and now you sort of have a threat of Rook to E7. Seems pretty decent to me. So Rook E1, I don't know what Black's gonna do. If they just try to challenge the Rook, then I believe you can just... Well, you can trade and take G5 for one. Okay, Rook E1, Rook G7 is the idea. Okay, so kind of defending that way. Okay, I can get behind that. What's sort of the knockout blow for TANISH? Maybe it doesn't exist yet, but, we gotta kind of keep our options open. Maybe like... I don't know. I mean, maybe no knockout blows needed. Just go King G7. Maybe like Rook H8. Sorry, Rook H1. Just try to trade rooks. I mean, I think eventually something's gonna happen to these pawns. Like they're just kind of being targeted potentially. They're kind of targets. So, there's that. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Time check. TANISH has 19 and a half minutes. Scott has 30 and a half. So, Scott with the time advantage. Wow, people born in 1999 are turning 26. That's crazy. That's actually nuts. 26, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But still, holy crap, we're getting old. I'm not a 1996 person, or 1999, but, we are getting old. A4 is on the board. Very understandable. I think, White is maybe trying to, go... I don't know, actually. Maybe, Bishop D2 to protect this. Well, it's already protected. So maybe he's just trying to go A5. Just try to open up the position. I think he just wants an entry point for the Rook. I think that's kind of TANISH's, game plan to win. Also, just for what it's worth, if Scott wants to not lose the match, he has to win this game. I'm not sure exactly how that would happen, but he has to try to win, I guess. I mean, if he'd be fine with a draw, if he cared about the rating, but it'd be cool if these matches, I don't know, had some sort of all or nothing format. I mean, I don't know. But, I guess if there was, something at stake, I don't know. But anyway, it's cool. It's cool. This is fun. This is entertaining. Okay, F4 is on the board. Wow, F4. Oh, F4 I guess makes sense, because you're trying to sort of get this. TANISH could probably just take. Then after takes, just go King F1. And there's really nothing you can do with your Rook because of the Bishop. And then, of course, this pawn's going to be under fire. So, that's what I thought. Maybe he just tries to close it with g4. G4 looks a little bit kind of... looks a little goofy. He goes bishop g4. I was not expecting that. Okay, I mean, that I guess that works, potentially. Because I would have thought that, like, maybe, like, you don't want the bishop lined up with your, with the rook, you know, covering the king. And I think he's just going to try to look for, like, rook e6. I think he's just trying to trade a pair of rooks, and then just play the 3 minors versus the rook. And then kind of, you know, just get that going. It's king d8. I wonder what else he could be trying to do. You know, there's like, you know, I mean, if takes, there's d takes. So I'm not exactly sure about that. You know, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. You just like king g2 and like king f3 even. Just try to go after this. We'll see what happens. Just trying to think about what Tanish is thinking about. I'm trying to read Tanish's mind. Oh, I guess what he could do. I don't know if I would do it, but like takes and f3. Because then you're just gonna take the pawn regardless. Take the f4 pawn. Oh, whoops, that's not what I meant. So I think you're going to take regardless at some point. So you play f3 first to protect it. You know, there could be like a trick with like rook h3 or something, but that's always a possibility. King g2's on the board. I think that makes a lot of sense. Just go king f3 and approach the pawn on f4. Okay. Yeah, it seems like a pretty good plan. I mean, if he takes, I imagine Tanish will just take back with the pawn or the king, maybe. And, you know, you've just made progress. You've opened another file. But if he allows king f3 to happen and takes, just wins the pawn, that's going to be completely winning. So, we'll see. Scott went ahead and doubled. So, trying to get something going here. I think Tanish can just safely take. Because if check, I just go king f3, and I'm not worried about anything else. Which I think Tanish is going to understand. You don't have to like panic and try to do... Not that you can do something about it, but there's no need to panic. It looks scary. It looks nice for Scott optically, but in reality, the rooks are just going to be hollow on the h-file. Alright, I gotta charge my computer real quick. I'll just do this, and I'll be right back. Alright, as predicted, Tanish went ahead and took. So he doesn't care about like rook h2, what's going on there. He just takes. The question, I guess, just remains: will Scott take or play Rook H2 first? He goes Rook H2 first. Probably just wants to see, like, he just see the position for itself, just see if there is anything. I imagine that TANISH will go King F3 or King G3, I guess, is possible. But I imagine one of those moves will happen. Hopefully. I don't want King G1 to happen. King G3 is on the board. Yeah, I think TANISH is starting to, like, put it all together. Because after, like, bishop takes, there's, like, a bishop G5 idea. And just, like, yeah, the bishops are just kind of raking. The rook, that's almost mate, in fact, just straight up. Takes, bishop takes. I assume, yeah, bishop takes. Bishop G5 would just be almost straight up mate, if not for rook E7. So, and there's not much you can do about it. I guess you can go rook G7 if you know that, it's coming, but like, I don't know, bishop takes D6 probably seems fine. Yeah, this is like, see, this is what, what it's all about. The three minor pieces versus the rook. You just have the bishop, the knight, the rook. They're all working beautifully together, whereas the rooks are just kind of hollow, unfortunately. So I expect this game to end in the next, like, 5 to 10 moves at most. Like, I think he'll hang something like bishop G5 or allow this. And there's going to be, like, a check or something. That would actually that wouldn't be make because there'd be this. But that would be a good simplifying route. But yeah, 5 to 10 moves. So I think the game will end by move 43. That's my prediction. Oh, the game ended. Nice. I just saw that. 1-0. Good job to both of the players. It was a well-fought game, but I think Scott just made a mistake, and TANISH was able to capitalize. It's a very wild position. Yeah, for sure. Well, it's completely winning for white, and black resigned because you just have the two bishops and knight versus the two rooks, and you have your own rook as well. The threat is just here or here, and I think Scott just saw that as overwhelming. Just decided throwing the towel. All right. Game 4 should be starting, pretty soon. Probably in a few minutes. Yeah, just to recap, I don't know if anyone, like, just got here, but, TANISH was doing well in the opening. He had this d4 break, but after a3, he allowed bishop d3, which sort of prevents d4, and gives black a pretty good position. And then he started attacking on the king side. TANISH found this move e4 to trap the bishop, and then he sort of messed up with knight takes e4. Thinking that he was clever with the sacrifice. If bishop takes, there's queen h3, and there's a mate threat on h2. But TANISH finds the best move, the star move, queen f3. Just attacking the bishop, and also just pressuring here. And then TANISH was able to convert. Took a little while, took a second, but eventually he got the job done. All right. And we are going to be on to game 4 momentarily. All right. So I'm just going to do this. Just gotta refresh this page. All right. So game 4, I'm just putting a move on the board. That's not necessarily the move that was played. Is going to be Scott with white. So he has 0 points. I'll say 0 out of 3. That's actually cleaner. Scott, TANISH, C-Lam, who has 3 out of 3. All right. So this game is really just for the rating. I'm not exactly sure if even at this point Scott can gain rating. He might be able to if he wins. Or at least he can, like, sort of salvage some rating with a draw. is kind of what it's looking like. But we'll see what happens. I think they're just going to play this game for fun. It's possible they just call off the match here. I mean, it's possible. It's like, been 3 games. They just want to, like, call it quits. I doubt it. I think they'll just play the 4th game. That always happens in these matches, even these blowouts. If it's like 3-0, 2.5-0, you just play the last game just, like, out of courtesy or whatever. So I do expect that game to happen. It's not the World Championship where there's just no point in playing the last game or two if the match has been clinched. It's just, just fun. Just for fun. So definitely if you're Scott, or TANISH for that matter, definitely just treat this as its own game. It's just for fun. So if you're TANISH, you don't want to have started 3-0 and then just like kind of ruin your rating a little bit with a loss in the last round. That's happened to me before when I played Matt Radoskowski. It was a 3-game match. I started 2-0, so I clinched the match. But then I lost the last game. I think because of that I lost like a few rating points. So I won the match, which was good. And it was a pie match, so, I got to pie my opponent in the face, but I lost that last game. I don't know if there are any other instances, but yeah, it could still happen. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see. We will see what happens. And if any of you are just joining, this is Scott versus TANISH over the board chess club match. TANISH is now 3-0. They played the first 2 games on Tuesday, playing the last 2 today. TANISH won the first game today, so now he moves to 3 out of 3. And Scott's just going to play spoiler in the last round. Like, he can't clinch the match or win or anything, but maybe he can get some rating. I'm not exactly sure how if he would gain rating or maybe just break even. But yeah, he's definitely just playing spoiler. Okay. The game is on. Scott Cooper with the white pieces goes d4. Not expected. I think Scott's also normally an e4 player. So this surprised me a little bit. Okay, we're not going to get behind this time. d4, d5. Scott plays Queen's Gambit. He goes c4. TANISH goes e6. All right, we like these positions for either side. C5. All right. Not a move you see every day. Now here's the deal. In the Queen's Gambit, you just want to like maintain the tension here. There are some positions where you're fine trading. Like, I like this exchange variation with knight c3, knight f6, and then trading and going bishop g5. I played many games against TANISH, actually, in these positions. Even then, sometimes you can just play, like, knight f3, bishop at g5, or f4, or something like that. But the problem with c5 is that you already sort of, like, commit this pawn. This pawn kind of sticks out like a sore throat. Black could play, like, a very quick e5, or what he's trying, which is b6. I think either of which are fine. And then, yeah, TANISH is just going to play a5. If Scott tries to play a3, he'll just take, and there's a pin. So already, positionally, Scott is just, like, worse. Like way worse. I think certain commentators or certain people would say that Scott is lost. I'm not that harsh in my commentary, but it's certainly not looking good. I think TANISH got exactly what he wanted within the first, like, 2 minutes of the match. First minute, in fact. And then, like, I guess bishop d2 will be on the board, maybe. Yep. So, yeah. A5 on the board. So, yeah, if Scott plays A3, which is probably his initial idea, TANISH will just take, and there's a pin. So, if you capture, the rook just gets taken. I imagine that Scott will just go bishop d2 or something, and then, maybe just allow a position like this. Maybe bishop takes. I mean, just the pawn's just going to be loose. I'm not exactly sure. He just has to, like, come up with something. Yeah, what Jason said in that text is like, it said something like, never send an E4 player to do a D4 player's job. And it's like, yep. Yep. And the house is gonna, burn. Takes B4 is on the board. He plays bishop takes B4, the variation we predicted. TANISH I expect is gonna take. There's gonna be like, does Scott want to trade the bishops, or just just take with the pawn and just kind of suck it up? We'll see what happens. Okay, so takes is on the board. I mean, yeah, we'll see what he does. I guess we'll see what he does. I think Scott's crashing out. Yeah, that seems like a reasonable assumption. Bishop takes. And yeah, I think TANISH can just like take and then like collect the pawn. Actually, I don't know. Like Queen E7. He's getting mad that we're picking on him. That's funny. Poor guy, poor guy. Okay, bishop takes, D takes will be on the board. Unless there's a shocker. TANISH plays C6. Very reasonable. I think he's just trying to go Queen A5 check and pick up the pawn that way. That's pretty good. Alright, 1 second, guys. I'll be back. Alright, we're back. Yeah, you see some of the moves being played. Scotch plays knight f3, TANISH goes check to pick up the pawn, and takes the pawn, and now it is TANISH's turn. Knight f6 is on the board. I mean, at this point, there's only so much Scott can do. Probably just develop the bishop, maybe develop the rook. just castle, just try to like play chess. But Tanish is up a clean pawn. Not only that, but there's like this sort of weakness that he has to fight with as well. So looks pretty good for Tanish. Maybe also eventually he could go like e5, e4. Or, maybe like e5, just go like e4 and try to like, just like, get a fork or at least disrupt those pieces. But, yeah, there's that. Hope everyone in the chat is doing well. I don't know. That's all I have to say now. I hope generally everyone's doing well. Castle. Oh, wait. Did I skip a move? Queen e7 is on the board. Castle. Castle. I think Tanish is trying to go like e5, e4. Scott plays knight e5 quickly. Understandable. Let's see. Knight e5. I think black, you have to be a little careful, because if you just play like knight d7, you can take c6. So I think like Tanish can go like, bishop b7, knight d7, just try to consolidate from there, and then he's doing just fine. Queen to c7 is on the board. Okay. That makes sense, too. You're protecting the pawn. You're attacking the knight. I think Scott will probably go knight f3, like knight d to f3, just try to connect the knights. But I think Tanish can pretty easily neutralize that with, like, knight d7. Okay, he goes f4. Also makes sense. Because, yeah, you're just solidifying the knight. But, yeah, I think Tanish can go, like, knight d7 in this position, and he's fine. I feel like queen b6 is worth some speculation, but there might just be like queen f3. You protect the pawn, and what's the queen doing on b6, but there's that possibility. I'd probably just go knight d7 without really thinking too much, so we'll see what happens. Okay, knight d7. We'll see how he reacts. I imagine he'll probably just use the other knight. Which at that point, Tanish could just go... I think he can just go knight takes e5. I guess d takes is possible. Actually, d takes would be very possible, wouldn't it? Think about this. Knight f3 takes, d takes. Now, I think he has knight e4, but if he goes like the wrong square, does he have like a sack with bishop h7? And then there's check. You have king g8, there's queen h5. So maybe there's something to where if Tanish like slips up, but I think here he has knight e4 and he's fine. Because, you block in the bishop. There's no sack. So Scott does indeed play knight f3, connecting the knights. So what I want from Tanish, or, what I would love to work is like takes. If knight takes, you go like here. Which now there's really no more sacrifice because the knight committed from f3, so there's no knight g5 to follow it up. And then, as we looked at pawn takes, there's knight e4. But if he slips up somehow, for some reason, it allows the Greek gift sacrifice, and we have a game, but I don't really expect him to do that. I think he'll be fully focused. Sorry, that's not the position on the board. It's this. This is the position. Whew, boy. I'm tired. Oh, there's football on today. I forgot about that. I'll have to catch it. I think Penn State is playing. Let's see. Who are they playing again? I forget. Okay, they're playing Notre... Oh, yeah, Penn State, Notre Dame. Yeah, I think I'll get to watch, some of that. That'll actually be fun. There's a lot of good football games coming on. There's that game. There's the game tomorrow. I think it's Texas, Ohio State, if I'm not completely out of touch. Then there are the playoff games over the weekend. So, yeah, good time to be a football fan. Tanish is taking his time a little bit. Scott has 41 minutes. Tanish has 36 and a half. So yeah. We can move this over just a little. Actually, I don't want to ruin the layout. It's probably better. Whew! It's raining outside. I don't know what else. I mean, we can try to analyze this. Yeah, again, I would expect this. You could slip up again, I think, if you're Tanish. If you just play, like, 98, try to go, like, F6, maybe. I think there's once again a Greek gift. Not even that. It's just Knight G5. No, I wonder what the move is. It says it's almost equal after Queen C2. Ah, okay. So you have that double attack. Yeah, Tanish should be a little bit careful here. But I think he should just take, which he doesn't do. He goes Knight E4. Which is... He's close to equalize. Has Scott. If he finds... Knight takes and or bishop takes in either order... Okay, he doesn't even do that. He's moving... Okay, that's also fine, I guess. But I think the way you secure equality is you take, D takes, Knight takes, Bishop takes, Knight E5. You just have good Knight versus bad Bishop, I think. And then you can also just go like here and try to collect the pawn. I think lands like Rook FD8, Queen C2, and if F5, there's like A4, and like, White's doing good. It's like good Knight versus bad Bishop, but Scott went Queen C2, which is also okay. Tanish's best move is just to go Knight D to C5, just attack the Bishop, because now you're threatening this, and then takes, Queen takes. So what Tanish should have done is he should have taken this first, so you trade it off and then go Knight E4, because then you get a position like this where the pawn's hanging. So there's that. But yeah, Queen C2 is on the board, so maybe Tanish making it a little bit harder on himself, but I still think he's doing fine. I think he'll be fine. Knight D5 is a very natural move. You attack the bishop, you reinforce the knight. I think you'll have no problem seeing that. Scott probably saw this, or saw the idea to like kind of double attack this and this, because he sees this attack with the knight. But Knight C5, of course, covers that, blocks it. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Oh boy. I don't know. To the one chatter in here, who's probably myself, what should we talk about? I'm bored. If anyone happens to be in chat and wants to sort of bring up a topic, just let me know. But I imagine that won't necessarily happen. I can talk to myself. But I don't know. We'll see. Maybe no one likes me. um, bop, bop, bop. I just realized like how blue the graphic is. Um, I know it's like AI generated. I think, shout out to Matt. I'm pretty sure that's probably his like work. Well, I don't know if he does. He's like some AI expert, but I know he does spend a lot of time on like his apps and things like that. But it's a lot of blue. I noticed that because like Scott's wearing a Baylor shirt, but that's blue, and then I noticed just Tanish's hair is blue. His shirt's blue. Scott's hat is blue, but the sock is purple. So that's interesting. I wonder. I guess that was a drawing prize for sure. The sock. I'm trying to remember. I would be curious to see like the actual picture. And what what it looks like, what colors they were wearing. I mean, that Baylor shirt has to be green, right? I do believe the hat is blue. But also, is that it kind of looks a little bit like the head of a chess queen, like by his like sunglasses. Looks like that's like I can show it, or I can looks like it's like that kind of looks like a queen, right? Kind of hard to zoom in even more, but like yeah, pretty interesting stuff. Hopefully the players are having fun. Hopefully they're having a good time. Ooh, just playing chess. All right. Actually, Tanish. Well, yeah, Tanish always takes his time. So that's not surprising. I'd be shocked at any given moment if Scott ever took more than like 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, we have a move. Tanish played Queen B6. So, not directly addressing either threat, but he has his own counter threat to go Queen takes E3. Just win that central pawn. So, trying to think. So, like, ideally for Scott, you just, like, take. And if he doesn't just take the pawn, you can recapture and protect. The problem with bishop takes is that there is check, and then there would be pawn or queen takes, I think. But I think eventually, also, like, c6 hangs. I don't know. It might just be bishop takes. I don't know. All right, I'm using the bathroom real fast. I'll be right back. All right. So Scott plays rook to e1, which is fine, I guess. It looks like it's a pretty good move. The only problem for Tanish is there's still kind of this dual threat. He does go knight c5. He does find it, but I think the move would be just takes, if I'm not mistaken. Because if knight takes, you then can take on c6. If pawn takes, there's probably just like, you know, some like knight d2 attacking the pawn or something like that. Wow, Scott goes knight d4. Okay, kind of like, you know, attacking this guy. Not good apparently for white. Looks like first move I'd consider is like knight takes d3. But I'm not exactly sure about that. This position's actually so kind of like, you know, it's so crowded in the middle of the board. Like, you know, you have like these four knights just placed like this. I have no idea what's going on. Tanish does go knight takes d3, which is the best move, or one of the better moves. But I wonder what the concrete idea is, or if black is just better, because like there's going to be up a pawn, play like c5 or something like that. Yeah, maybe queen takes just c5. You just kick the knight away, and, you know, you're just up a pawn. So, queen takes is on the board. Yeah, I would actually bet, you know, some money. Yeah, c5 is the top move. So really what it came down to is like earlier, white seemed to be doing fine because the c6 pawn was a legitimate target. But now you just make these trades, you play c5, even like bishop a6 might be a consideration, and you're just chilling, you're just up a pawn. So there's that. Bom, bom, bom. Yep, c5 on the board. We'll see what Scott decides to do with his knight. Hopefully he doesn't go knight b5, because bishop a6 would probably just be GG, or close. I mean, I guess there's a4, but knight b5 would be a very questionable. Also, knight b5, there's c4, I think. c4. Oh, wow. He was queen b5. Okay. Was not expecting that. I guess it's okay, all things considered. I'm actually curious what the top line is. Apparently he should just go queen a7, but also queen takes b5 is fine. You know, queen a7 or queen c7, queen takes, you know, totally chill. Queen takes, knight takes, and like f6. Alexa tells me there's snow possible. I mean, apparently snow is possible today, and it didn't happen. So, queen takes, knight takes. Yeah, Tanish is just cruising. It looks like he's up a pawn. Plus, this guy's weak, potentially. He has an open A file to work with. Looks like he's doing pretty well. All right. Chat, how are y'all doing? I'm not sure. I hope you're doing good. I hope that everyone's well-being is up to par. I'd love to hear that if that's the case. I don't know. This is the one time you get to like talk to yourself and not be judged as like, you know, egotistical. I'm playing, just whatever. I'm just trying to get engagement, but yeah, I mean, yeah, so black is doing really well. I think that just the last step for black is just going to be to do something about the bishop and get, like, the rook involved. So, like, it is a little tricky because there aren't exactly a host of squares for the bishop, but bishop a6 seems fine. You attack the knight. Is it even black's move? Yeah, it is black's move. Okay, so Tanish plays f6, which is also fine. You just attack the knight. He could just try to look intimidating and go knight c6, but I think even like knight c6 just... Actually, bishop d7, I think you just lose material. So, because the knights can't... I guess you can go like knight a7. You're really holding on by a thread, though. And I think rook b8, you're toast. So, we'll see what he does. We'll see if he tries to go flashy or just, you know, realizes he just has to play the position down a pawn, just goes knight b3. Knight d3, I mean, and just, you know, just plays chess. Just gonna read these. Oh, yeah. Okay, Scott goes knight f3. Understandable. And yeah, I think it's just gonna be a slow grind to the death. I'd probably, you know, bishop a6. Bishop a6 could block the rook, though. So maybe, and I think now bishop d7 is viable. You just go like rook b8. Sorry, rook b8. You have the rook sort of dominating the a and b files, and you're doing totally fine. Bishop d7. Yep, as I predicted. I mean, he can try to go knight c7, but I think knight c7 just traps the knight. Probably rook a7. The knight has nowhere to go. Yeah, knight c7, rook a7. a4 is on the board. If I'm Tanish, I don't mind taking. I don't know if it's necessarily even best, but seems okay to me. Just trade off the bishop for the knight. You're doing good. All right, bishop takes. I imagine a takes will happen. It's a little tricky probably though for Tanish because you can, I mean, well, I guess you can trade, but trading wouldn't necessarily be advisable because now Scott would dominate the a file. And also this b pawn is something to consider. Like the b pawn could be dangerous if it's like backed up and protected, but I think Tanish can always just go like rook b8 or something. Just keep it contained, and, you know, I don't really think it'll be a problem, but we'll see. Tanish also has his own pass pawn on the c file, so... We got some good snow up in Frisco. Oh, really? That's cool. I heard it might snow in the Dallas area. I didn't know if it actually did. Good ass snow. That has to be actually sick. Like, is it like Winter Wonderland or just like, you know, solid snow? But yeah, hopefully it snows in Waco. That would be cool. Rook b8 on the board. They traded and played rook b8. I imagine Scott will probably just go like rook b1 and just try to protect the pawn. Just try to protect the pawn. And, you know, just, like, hold on to it. But Tanish can probably just, like, round it up with, like, knight d6. And then, you know, if, like, b6, or might be, like, a rook b7, knight c8, because rook b7 blocks the pawn. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. Okay, rook b6. Sorry. Oh, yeah, it was rook b1. Rook b1, rook b6 on the board. Yeah, he's going to go knight d6, just round up the pawn. King f1 on the board. Even like knight c3, you know, it would also work. Same idea. Or knight d6 if he wants to be like, you know, more straightforward about it or more just like discreet. Kind of depends. Depends on what he wants to do. Also, Tanish is already up a pawn. Okay, he doesn't even go for the pawn yet. He just goes king f7. I can respect that. There's patience. Maybe just activating the king first before committing with the knight. You know, there's that. Scott played king e1. Maybe he's like waiting for the blunder. He was just waiting for either like king e2 or like king d1, which would blunder knight c3. I say blunder, like it's already like, yeah, actually the king can't go anywhere, really. Like you can't go to d1 or e2. You can't legally go to d2. So maybe Tanish is just like trying to trick him. I say blunder, like it's already losing, but you know, if he plays king d1 and knight c3 is on the board, I think it's immediate resignation. Okay, he goes rook b2. So I think Scott's aware of it, aware of that potential fork. So this is probably where Tanish goes like knight d6 or knight c3. Or not, he just goes king d6. Okay, Tanish is just gonna torture. I imagine, you know, c4, king c5 is the idea. Which is totally fine. Just trying to make sure, like, it's not a blunder, right? Knight d6 is not a blunder. Knight c3, neither is a blunder. Maybe he just doesn't want to allow, like, the rook to go rogue or something like that. But, yeah, it's also, like, you know, it's also fine. g4 is on the board. Yeah, I mean, at any moment, I expect knight c3 or like c4. I guess Tanish is trying to go like c4, king c5, and just be a little bit more methodical about it. So yeah, we'll see what happens. All right. Tanish does go knight c3, finally committing to just taking the pawn. Why is black winning? He's only up a pawn. That's actually a really good question. Well, he played by playing knight c3, which he just played. He's going to be up 2 pawns because he's going to take on b5, and there are 2 attackers, only 1 defender, and there's not really another way to defend the pawn. Like you can't really like. It's not like the knight could come to the rescue or anything like that. So it does show him as completely winning because he's going to be up 2 pawns. And it's like methodical. It's not like, you know, there's like +4, or I guess it's -4. There's like -4 this, or it could be -4 like, you know, you're on the verge of getting mated. This is obviously the more methodical route. Because I assume, let's just say, I assume rook takes will happen. Let's just say he trades, which he probably won't, because he'll probably just try to keep the material on the board. But yeah, you get a position like this. Dude, it'll be pretty straightforward, you know, just c4, c3. Probably just move the king in, you know, then like eventually you'll just get, you know, just what the support you need. Maybe e5 at the right moment, if it's like well protected enough. So that's why black's winning. They're up 2 pawns at this point. You know, Scott can try to, like, avoid the rook trade, but it's, you know, not looking promising for him. Rook c2, I think there's, like, rook b1 check. I mean, I guess there's maybe king d2, but, like, knight e4. And, like, yeah, it seems pretty good for black. Oh, wow, he trades. Okay. That surprised me a little bit. I would have expected Scott to keep rooks on the board, but I guess he's just trying to, like, maybe hold this endgame, like, hope that Tanish blunders a pawn or something, and then maybe if he's only up 1 pawn, then there could be better drawing chances. The thing is, though, you're not really in danger of losing any of your pawns if you're black. They're all kind of knit together. Like, all the pawns are together, so it's not like there's really a weakness that you can go after or anything like that. And I think what he's going to do, I think he'll play e5 probably, if I had to guess. e5 here. So I'm thinking of something like e5, he'll take, maybe like, and then just go like here. Let's have like two connected passed pawns. You can use the king, just push them methodically, and then you're just completely winning. So I have to make sure you do them in the right order and everything, and just be a little bit patient, but yeah, I would expect something like that. TANISH goes h6. Yeah, probably the only thing left is making sure there's no pawn breakthrough for white. Yeah, g5, there would just be takes and even like takes. Maybe like knight takes, and you can just hope to target the g7 pawn, but that's barely like, Okay, knight c7. Sorry. g5, knight c7. So TANISH just ignoring this. Like, you don't even have to take. If he takes, I'll take this. Same here. Whoops. And I imagine knight c7, you're trying to go... I actually don't know what the idea is. Like, e5, knight e6... Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Takes h6. Takes... So now maybe Scott has one last hope, which is that you can somehow get him to slip up, win this pawn, and then use your passed h-pawn, but I don't really think that's going to happen. The way I would construct is maybe if he plays like knight h2, and he plays like c4, like slips up, there's like knight g4. Even that's still apparently winning for black. I think you're just in time, just go like here. Because the problem is, well, apparently this is not fine, but, is there like, I don't know what the winning move is actually. King e7. Ah, you king e7. So if takes, there's f5. You trap the knight. The knight cannot go anywhere. Trying to do my best Levy impression. He goes rook here. But so, whoops. Wait, okay, my bad. I don't even know where we were at. Oh yeah, I was making up this variation. Takes. King c3 is on the board. Okay, king c3 is on the board. e5, and yeah, e5 and black is doing totally fine. There's d4 check. Even like knight b5 check is good. And it's just GG. Close to GG. I mean, not quite literally GG, but I imagine f takes will be on the board. Yep. So now you just have on this side of the board, it's like 3 pawns versus 1. Very quickly, you can just play like, d4 check. Can I make a unique color? Can't I make green? Like shift command green? There we go. You'll play like d4 check soon enough. Then it'll be like basically 2 pawns versus none. Scott just tries h5. I mean, I guess you can try to go like here and hope you can get the pawn, but probably not happening. TANISH goes here. I imagine there's this idea coming, which is totally fine. Knight h5. Sorry, knight h4 is what I meant to say. King f6. Oh, he's just trying to go after the pawn. Yep. Just trying to collect that last pawn. And there's really nothing that you can do. Like, it's not like you can just walk over and just get one of the pawns. Because the pawns are all covering sort of critical squares. This is knight h4, king f6. Knight f3, knight e6, never resign. That's true, yeah, never resign. You never know. You never know what can happen. King d2 on the board. We'll see how TANISH's conversion is. Computer says e4. Knight g5 is also reasonable. I mean, trading would obviously just be like an admission of defeat or an admission that you're playing for stalemate. so you should probably just move the knight away. It goes knight h4. And we'll see what happens. Knight e4 check. If king e2, there's a fork with knight c3 attacking the h-pawn and the king. I think if king goes anywhere, you just go knight g3 and then just round up the pawn. King d3. You're going to start to think about like c4 check and then like, d4, just using those pawns. Okay, he does go c4. c4, because now you can't even go to this square. Okay, I think black won. Yeah, black resigned. They put the kings in the middle. Yeah, I mean, black resigned. Like, if you go king c2 or something, like, you always have knight g3 whenever you want, but even like this should be fine. And then, like, you just have 2 pawns versus none. You just walk the king up, you just push, and then you eventually win. So, just like that, TANISH C-Lam 4-0s Scott Cooper and wins the match. Valiant effort by Scott, and shout out really to both players for playing the match. That was, that was entertaining. I think it was also pretty instructive at certain points because you just have a situation where, higher A player kind of beats lower A player. You kind of learn some instructive points as to, like, what types of mistakes the 1500s make and, like, how the 1800 exploits them and things like that. So, yeah, you have sort of, like, that to kind of glean on. But, yeah, well, I think that's it from my end. 4-0, that was the last game. We'll see what the next match is. I have no idea, but hopefully there'll be a match coming up soon, and if so, I'll be happy to commentate unless I'm playing. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Thank you all so much to those of you who stopped by and chat. Really appreciate you. And I'll try to like stream more often. Probably more on Twitch. If I stream regularly, my Twitch is just twitch.tv/DanielGell. And yeah, well, I think that's it. I think I'll let you guys go. Just have a great rest of your evening. Enjoy the snow, Jeremiah, if you're still there. Can I play TANISH, like in a match? Well, this wasn't over the board match. This wasn't like online. I mean, if you want to challenge TANISH, I'm sure you could, but I'm not exactly sure what the context of that question is. But if you want to play over the board, I'm sure that's a possibility. Yep. All right. I think I will go. I think I will not quite hit the hay, but like, we're getting there. It's tired. Well, I need more context to the question. Like, do you want to play him on chess.com? Do you want to play him over the board? Like, in what context do you want to play TANISH? It's not like TANISH is just accessible 24/7. Like, that probably would need to be arranged. Yep. All right. Good job. Good job to the players. Shout out for the great games, and I will see you for the next video, next stream, whatever. And yeah, just peace out. Match.